So I am hurrying through it a little bit because I want to read a letter of Sri Aurobindo, and it's something which is, I feel, one of the most important uh, things to know. One of the first things to know. Basically, these powers of the vital come to everyone who goes through this. They are also known as the Ashtasiddhis or the vital siddhis in traditional yoga. And yet one has to be very careful. If yoga is pursued to in ambition to become a great yogi, a great person with superhuman powers, then one gets stuck into these planes which leads to downfall. And there are many powers like that. I am reminded of an instance of Dyuman Bhai. He speaks of it passingly that once he was given the gift of healing. He could actually heal people without any of this other things. And when he wrote to Sri Aurobindo, he said, "Yes, it is true, but you don't need it." That was the end of the story. So he never actually used it on others that, I can heal. This is the way they have shown who have walked before us. And of course, some of these powers can be very funny also. There is a person somewhere in Bihar, I have forgotten now the place. People call him a tantric yogi, but after reading Sri Aurobindo, it's so, the term yogi has been so much misused and abused. But whatever it is, he has a interesting power. If you tell him that I want this particular sweet from this particular shop, he will get it within seconds. So, in Ranchi, you tell him that I want sweet from this particular sweet from Agarwal sweet store. It will come. And I'm sure there are entities like that who work. They'll supply you sweets even if you don't want it. But you should stay away, in the sense, if you get trapped into it. So and a lot of people go there. I don't know why they go to a yogi to get sweets. I mean, you can pay it, pick and choose and get it. I mean, why you have to go to somebody? But there are powers like that. There are stories of, very interesting story of Swami Vivekananda, that a yogi told him, "Oh, I hear you are a great yogi and you have gone America and given lectures, huh? Can you do this? What I am doing?" So what he is doing, he walked on the water. And then he came back. He said, "Can you do this?" Vivekananda had his own sharp humor. He said, "What? This is what you have learnt after years of sadhana. I can do it with paying 50 paisa and helping a ferryman." You are doing yoga for this? To have the ability to walk on water? This can be done by a ferryman and he'll also earn a livelihood. I'm not stupid enough to do this. So there are powers which will come of all kinds. And when yoga is done for lust of powers, for display of powers to, be recognized, then it is definitely very, very dangerous. Because in ordinary life itself, power is dangerous. Not that one is to avoid. They will come to observe. Don't be absorbed into them. Now imagine when these powers comes which belong to the vital world, mostly through the vital entities. Like we had that fakir who had the power to throw stones, and he tried it on Sri Aurobindo of all the things. And he said that I cannot throw it within 25 meters. But I need a medium to throw it. So he planted a cook called Vatal. Probably it was a misnomer, it must have been Vetal, I suspect. But Vatal was the medium and through which the stones would come. So when things went to a point, then mother went inside and found who are these beings. There were 3 vital entities who were doing it. So mother said, "Why are you doing this?" He says, "We are captured by him. We have to obey him. If you ask us, we will also serve you." So mother said, "What can you do? Can you get me flowers?" They said, "No, we can only throw stones." Mother said, "I have no need of you." And then this magic hit back and the man fell terribly sick. He was on deathbed. And then his wife comes and pleads to Sri Aurobindo that please, or to mother, that my husband is on deathbed and he realizes that he did a wrong thing by trying to throw stones on your house. So mother said, well, I have to talk to Sri Aurobindo about it. She would not do anything without. So she says, Lord, this is what has happened and he is on deathbed. Sri Aurobindo has a very cool reply. I mean, sometimes you feel such a beautiful compassion. He says, what? Dying for a few stones? That's the end of the story. He recovers. So one has to be so careful, and they are so attractive. Healing power. Oh, I can heal. Do this, do that. It's okay. So what? Many people can heal. It's not the same as realizing union with the divine, which is what the goal of yoga is. One should not stop short at anywhere. They will come, they will go, they may stay. Of course, Sri Aurobindo would say use them divinely, but that's a different thing altogether in this yoga, at least. But one should not prematurely start believing that one is using divinely. These powers were not blunt with the dead weight of earth. That was the thing about these powers. All the powers, when they act through matter, they become dull. The life force, when it flows in its own original impulse, has a tremendous capacity to carry us far. But the moment it enters into matter, needs the food of matter to subsist and survive. Look what it happens. What happens to it? We eat food, we are energetic for some time, then again after a while it becomes dull and we begin to feel the need for sleep and rest. So in these worlds, they are not blunt with that. They gave ambrosia's taste and poison's sting. There was an ardor in the gaze of life that saw heaven blue in the grey air of night. Like when this colors us, what happens when we are adolescents and we are colored? Then if we are fond of someone, that person looks next to God. It's coloring, grey of night. One sees, it has an ardor. The impulses Godward soared on passion's wings. Mind's quick-paced thoughts floated from their high necks, a glowing splendor as of an eye-raised mane, a parure of pure intuition's light. Its flame foot gallop they could imitate. So even the intuition and inspiration they can imitate. I have seen people under a stress of mania. They write and they'll fill pages. But if you see through the writing, there is no substance. I have seen books like that published. I'm resisting the temptation to go further. Under intuition, inspiration, in the name of Mother and Sri Aurobindo, and the person introduces herself that now I am identified with the Supreme and I am carrying on the work which Mother and Sri Aurobindo have left unfinished. I am the bridge. Thank God doesn't use the word golden before that. It's published here. And I asked, do you know what you have published? We know. This lady has not read much of Mother and Sri Aurobindo. I said, but it's all coming in her name, in their name. It starts with pictures of Mother and Sri Aurobindo. And guess what is written below it? Look how the mind's logic or the twisted logic works. Below the pictures of Mother and Sri Aurobindo, it is written about the living influence and the physical presence of the Guru. Now, the stage is set that you need a physical Guru. So first it comes that. Nothing else. Not that, something beautiful and inspiring. Then comes another great yogi from here whose picture comes. He was the one who actually embodied the light of Mother and Sri Aurobindo and the truth. He was identified with Supreme. All right. Now he has passed away. So third is this person's picture with this man. And then below it, I'm being very frank because, these things happen and one has to speak about it. It is dangerous because, there are people who get into these kind of cults. I have seen this in Russia. People getting into hold of gurus. When Mother and Sri Aurobindo are there, what is the need? Which guru? What guru? But they get into this. And physical presence. So everybody wants to fill that vacuum of physical presence. The fact is, nobody can fill that vacuum. And it's a way of looking at it. Even when we have eyes, for many it would still be a vacuum because we see only the physical form. And to those who have another set of eyes, the eye of faith, they are very much present. The person who came to have darshan of Sri Aurobindo was blind in both eyes, and someone asked him, "You will not see Sri Aurobindo and he will not speak. Why are you going for his darshan?" And he gave a beautiful reply. He said, "You have eyes. Do you think you can see? How much can we see with these eyes? I am not going so that I see them. I cannot see them. Even if I had eyes, I cannot see them. I am going so that their glance, their gaze, their eye of compassion, solicitude, mercy and grace can fall upon me. I am going for that. I don't dare say that I can see them and behold that splendor." So this is the path of yoga, has to be done like that. But you see what happens when Gurudom has its... So they could imitate. Mind's voices mimicked inspiration stress. But someone who has experienced inspiration knows the difference. Otherwise, it can just pass off. It's ictus of infallibility. It will be written with a certitude. So, most people don't even question. Oh, she says she is supreme, she must be supreme. Use some discrimination. Just because she says she is supreme. We had another year, I think Banarasi Ma had come long back in Pondicherry in presence of mother. And when mother was informed about her and she said, "I am the real Savitri." And when mother was informed about her, she just laughed. She felt amused. So you can imagine what kind of things may happen. So, its speed and lightning, heaven leap of the gods. And they do have some powers, by the way. So, we should not be carried away by that. A trenchant blade that shore the nets of doubt, its sword of discernment seemed almost divine. Even they will tell you, if you go to them, "You have this problem and I have removed it. Now you are a free man. You didn't know before that you have a problem. Now you have a mythical problem which has been removed." So you just don't know what to say, whether to thank for the problem being removed or to curse because you have suddenly discovered a problem which you didn't know you have. Even in the ashram, they will tell you, if they catch hold of you inside, wait, I'll tell you something about yourself. Be careful, you have not asked. This is unsolicited. Unsolicited advices are dangerous. And we all have problems, little ones, big ones. And isn't she there to take care of it? Yet all that knowledge was a borrowed sense. The terminology used is something similar. So all that knowledge was a borrowed sense. The forms that came were not heaven's native birth. They were pure projections. They were not the truth. Like Shiva, when he appears on the vital plane, you see him the way he is picturized in photographs. Conventional photograph with a snake around, half the Chandrama and stuff like that. So people say, I have seen Shiva. Similarly, when Krishna comes, he has to be in that particular mode. But those who have really had vision of Krishna and Shiva, the Divine Mother will come with 8 hands, 10 hands, more the merrier, on the vital plane. Ashtbhuja Devi, Dashbhuja Devi. But the real Durga, she doesn't need 10 hands. One is enough. The power, the energy is of why 10,000 hands. So this is the difference. They are projections on the vital plane, the forms that come. They are borrowed from there, but projected on the vital plane. Like Kali of Virampatnam, of whom the mother says she came running to mother. And she said, I know you know my secret. People were worshipping her. Please, I want to make a pact with you. Give me little bit of your power, I will pass on little bit of the money that I receive. Mother said, I am not interested. You do your business. Thank that I am not finished it. Gurus. Somebody took mother to meet a guru, and he was all dressed like a guru. Gurus also have a formal dress, no? Otherwise, how to recognize? The very exterior must impress. Otherwise, you won't recognize. If they are moving in jeans and how will you recognize? So she goes and sees, and Guru opens his arms to greet her, and she sees a Asura there. And so she says, I didn't say anything, but he recognized that I have recognized him. So he came running to mother. It's there in the agenda. And he is furious because he is afraid that now she will destroy all his world. Mother just smiled and says, you want to carry on your business. She is the mother of all, this whole creation. And she goes away. So, how careful one has to be. An inner voice could speak the unreal's word. Its puissant, dangerous, and absolute could mingle poison with the wine of God. This is the, Sri Aurobindo would hardly say in that sense of absoluteness, I am saying so. Never. How beautifully Niruddha recounts. Holds a letter and says, I suppose this has to be posted. And how beautifully Niruddha writes, 100 hungry hands would want to grab at it. He doesn't say, I, the Supreme, am writing this letter. You will be blessed to post it. If somebody took it, he would say, thank you very much. One place the mother reveals her supreme aspect, but it's in reference to one disciple in certain question. And then he says, you know what? I don't want to speak all this. People will mistake it. Lot of people brag this way. Despite being that, Sri Aurobindo, whenever she would say, she how beautifully she puts it. Some places so touching. It's so sweet. In one of the places in the agenda, mother writes, Sri Aurobindo knew who I am and he spoke about it. That's it. What a beautiful way to put it. Sri Aurobindo knew. Of course, she also knows who she is. But she will not put it like that. How beautiful, how gentle, how divine. That is the beauty of divinity. It doesn't impose itself with authority. Nobody they would do this. I am saying it, do it. You don't know, I am the mother of this ashram. Nothing like that. Somebody wanted to take over the ashram. Sri Aurobindo's nephew. So everybody was afraid. 51. Because, legally it would fall into him after Sri Aurobindo's physical withdrawal. So when mother was told, 52, mother was told about it, Nalinida said, he has written this letter, what should we do? Mother said, tell him to come and take over. As simple as that. Tell him. He got so frightened with this simple direct reply that he was frightened out of his wits. Who can write like this? Tell him to come and take over. No court case, nothing. No police protection, nothing. No preemptory bail suit. Tell him to come and take over. This is the power that she wielded. This power is clothed in most humblest things. But that's not how the vital operates. This is to know the difference. On these high shining backs, falsehood could ride. Truth lay with delight in error's passionate arms, gliding downstream in a blithe gilded barge. She east her ray with a magnificent lie. That's what I said. One lie. And it just passes unnoticed. And east her ray. That lie is the one which is, we know how when Hanuman is going to get Sanjeevani beauty, Kalanemi, he assumes the form of a bhakta and sits there saying Ram, 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 Ram. So Hanuman has discernment, but he is also carried away. After all, he is saying Ram, Ram, Ram. He is dressed like a sadhu, no possessions, having a hut. He must be a yogi. These are our signs. The lesser the clothes, the more, the greater the yogi. The people don't know. They may have bank balances worth crores. Because if you can sit in a hut and make money, why not? It's a profession. Like there are beggars who have lakhs of rupees. It's a profession. So, he's sitting there. He wants to trap Hanuman. So Hanuman says, can you tell me which way is Sanjeevani Booty? He says, yes, of course. First you eat and drink this food. And suddenly he discovered this is poison stuff. He sees him and he says, this is not Ram Bhakta. He is a deadly serpent. And Hanuman gives one blow and says, get lost. I'll discover it by myself. He comes to help. I will tell you, you want to do God's work, I will help you. If God cannot help, who will help? It is His purpose, His business to help us. And He will do it if we trust His grace. We have to trust and move. Here in life's nether realm, all contraries meet. Truth stares and does her works with bandaged eyes, like our law. I've always wondered why they put a patti over law. The dark. And all lawyers wear black dress. Only little bit of white is seen here. Doesn't mean that doctors who wear white dress are good people. But nevertheless, it's strange. Truth is doing her works with bandaged eyes. And ignorance is wisdom's patron here. So when mother was asked why such beings are allowed, mother said they do some service. There are some people who get turned through them, but the moment they discover this is not required, they go on to the true path. She speaks of two Americans. Both are no more there. I suspect they were Sam and Eric of Madhagiri. This is my feeling. Because it's written like that, S&E, so it must be them. Who had turned through Sri Chinmay, who was regarded as a guru. And he was student here and 20 years he lived in the ashram, went and became a big guru. Even United Nations Secretary General U Thant, he was, his disciple, almost a disciple. So they came and told mother, we told him, we don't need intermediaries or anybody between us and you. You means the Divine Mother. And when we told this, he did not like it. But when we came, we feel so liberated and freed. This is a sign. Literally a sign, because they hold the person in their clutch. And they said, we feel so freed. And then the mother remarked, I am glad you have this discernment. Most people do not have it. I am glad you have this discernment. Most do not have it. But see, that's how they serve. Through him, he came to know. They came to know. But eventually, not only this, those galloping hooves in their enthusiast speed, if one allows or encourages this movement, if one knows, observes, they will come and pass away. If there is fundamental humility, sincerity, trust on the divine. But if one encourages or gets drawn into these movements, I have seen gurus in the name of Sri Aurobindo's yoga end up in jail and die a miserable death. People know about it. They formed a trust, got so much money, and eventually were caught, put in jail for 10 years, life imprisonment. So these thoughts will come, if at all they come. Better they don't come, they should not come. But if they come, one has to stay clear. Because these galloping hooves in their enthusiast speed could bear to a dangerous intermediate zone where death walks wearing a robe of deathless life. The Asura comes looking like a master. Or they enter the valley of the wandering gleam, whence captives or victims of the spacious ray, the lying ray, the deceiving ray, souls trapped in that region never can escape. It's frightening. Agents, not masters, they serve life's desires. Toiling forever in the snare of time. They are not liberated. They are caught in the endless snare of time. Worse fate than an ordinary life. Because you have hope there. They are caught in a maze of illusion of the vital which will not release them. it will keep trapping in one illusion or the other. Like supposing somebody is reading all this and hearing all this and has this idea of Gurudam and all this, say, oh, he doesn't know. This is all. That's why I got Sri Aurobindo's letter to safeguard. Because, this is how it traps. It will give one logic or the other to prolong its dark reign. Their bodies born out of some nihil's womb ensnare the spirit in the moment's dreams, then perish, vomiting the immortal soul. That's why Sri Aurobindo never encouraged this idea of advanced sadhak. Someone asked Hardan Bakshi, he was military man those days, and in Punjabi to boot, or was he Bengali? I think he was a Bengali. Bakshi can both ways. And he was asked by someone, tell me who are the advanced sadhaks here? This is one of the things people ask. Who are the advanced sadhaks? At least if they come to me, I say stay away. Whoever they are and wherever they are. You don't need advanced sadhaks. Mother and Sri Aurobindo are there. Stay away from advanced sadhaks. Especially if you come to know advanced sadhaks, stay away. So, he said something very remarkable. I'll tell you in your ears. Don't whisper it to anyone. He came very close. He said, there are only two advanced sadhaks. He said, who are they? Who are they? He said, you and me. So he got the shock of his life. He said, no, you are not serious. Tell me really. Say, okay, come. I'll tell you now. He said, there are two. So again he is wondering which two. He says, there are only two advanced sadhaks here, the mother and Sri Aurobindo. It doesn't mean that there are not advanced sadhaks or those, but it's always good to remember that we are all little babies. And we remain babies. In our lap also we are babies. Even sages and saints and seers and gods are our babies. What to speak of mortals and even immortals are our babies. So this is the safety. Who are safe? Yet some uncaught, unslain, can verily pass. Some, not most. Carrying truth's image in the sheltered heart. When Hanuman is about to enter Lanka, citadel of darkness, where Guru is Ravana, who knows Brahmagyan. He has read all the Vedas. People regard and revere him as the Guru of that place. Whatever he says is word and authority and command. They really believe he is divine because he has all the powers. Even gods bow before him. So when Hanuman is to enter that place, he hears a command within. And it's very beautifully captured in Tulsidas Ramcharitmanas. Pravishi nagar kije sab kaja, hirday rakhi kaushalpur raja. Enter into this citadel and do all the works that have been given to you. But one thing you must remember, keep in your heart sheltered the image of the Lord and his spouse. So if we keep mother in our heart, we are safe. Carrying truth's image in the sheltered heart. Pluck knowledge out of error's screening grip, like Odysseus. They pluck knowledge. They take the booty, some powers, some things which we have to gather from there. Break paths through the blind walls of little self, then travel on to reach a greater life. This becomes a passage for them. All this streamed past her and seemed to her vision's sight, as if around a high and voiceless isle, a clamor of waters from far unknown hills swallowed its narrow banks in crowding waves and made a hungry world of white wild foam, hastening a dragon with 1,000,000 feet, its foam and cry, a drunken giant's din. This is the vital world in its full glory. She observes it, watches it, and passes through it. Tossing a mane of darkness into God's sky, it ebbed, receding into a distant roar. After a while, just like when we read about the elemental energies of the world, just beginning of the subtle world, so also In the vital world, after a while, they pass away, tossing a mane of darkness, like a last lash. Don't acknowledge me, here I am. Last. Then it passes away like a sea in the distance. And then again comes that release. We saw it in the transition from the physical to the vital. Again we see it in transition from the vital to the mental. Then smiled again a large and tranquil air. Blue heaven, green earth, partners of beauty's reign. Lived as of old, companions in happiness. And in the world's heart laughed the joy of life. All now was still. The soil shone dry and pure. Soil of human nature, where all kinds of things had grown. Poisonous herb, which one thought were powerful magic herbs, all they were removed. Something that someone experienced, again a tantric yogi, when he came to ashram, he said, I don't know. He could, give Shaktipat. That means put the hand over forehead or the finger and make the descent of Shakti. He says, I don't know why this doesn't work here. It should work more, he thought. There is so much Shakti here. So mother laughed. She says, how will it work here? It takes away all these things. It is the truth power. All other intermediate things are taken away. He said, I don't know why it doesn't work. He tried all kinds of tricks, including zooming an image of Sri Aurobindo in the mental world and projecting in front of mother to impress her that he is one of the great followers of Sri Aurobindo and has now embodied Sri Aurobindo. And mother saw his tricks. She says, I didn't tell him anything. Then she tells the disciple, don't tell him anything. He is a nice guy. So, what vastness we cannot imagine. Through it all she moved not, plunged not in the vain waves, out of the vastness of the silent self. Life's clamor fled. Her spirit was mute and free. So there are layers of freedom. It's not that the final liberation comes in one go. One gets liberated one after another. First from the casings of the material world and its trappings. The hard prison, the iron prison of the material world. One begins to experience things which one doesn't experience materially. Then comes the trappings or the prison of the vital world. Much better. Silver bars. Wider. Lot of things are there. And then one gets freed from that, and then comes the prison of the mental world. The golden bars. Even more difficult to break because they seem almost divine. We'll talk about that tomorrow, but today we have time, and I had kept time for reading this letter because this is something very interesting. This is from the book The Riddle of the World, and I am not campaigning for Shabda, but it's available in Shabda for rupees 35. So this was a short commercial break. Okay, so it's a book of letters of Sri Aurobindo, and there are two particular letters, The Valley of False Glimmer. Partly we have read it, partly we'll read tomorrow when we think of the mental world. And the next letter is The Intermediate Zone. As far as I remember, this was in reply to something written to Dilip Kumar Roy by Krishna Prem. And the essence of Krishna Prem's letter was that, why bother about all these things? Love for the divine is enough. And he says, yes, Sri Aurobindo says he has a Pashyanti Vak. So he is able to see through it. And it's true that love for the divine is enough. But then the sadhak has to take into account about these things. And then there is a whole letter which reveals about this intermediate zone. Particularly because Dilip Kumar had a penchant for, being attracted towards all these, such beings and phenomena. So, this part of that. All these experiences are of the same nature, and what applies to one applies to another. Apart from some experiences of a personal character, the rest are either idea truths such as pour down into the consciousness from above. When one gets into touch with certain planes of being, or strong formations from the larger mental and vital worlds, which, when one is directly open to these worlds, rush in and want to use the sadhak for their fulfillment. This is the important part. These things, when they pour down or come in, present themselves with a great force. The psychic voice is still small voice. Any idea which presents with intense insistence asserts itself. One should be very careful. The sadhak feels himself freed from the normal limits, projected into a wonderful new world of experience, filled and enlarged and exalted. What comes associates itself besides with his aspirations, aspiration for truth, and say, here is truth. Ambitions to be a yogi, and the voice suggests you are a yogi, great yogi, possibly Superman in the making. Notions of spiritual fulfillment and yogic siddhis. It is represented even as itself that realization and fulfillment. Very easily he is carried away by the splendor and the rush. It is so very easy to be carried away by flattering of the ego. All good business, corporate business people know it. This is the style. They will enter a house, and when they have to sell a product, there are two kinds of them. One is who will say, Madam, I want to show you this product, and sit very grim-faced. The smart ones, they'll say, you have kept this house so well. Already he has half sold it. And then say, ma'am, it's so nice, you've kept it so well. They will take the form. You have how many children? So you say you have 2 children. Oh, you don't look like that. Now, he has almost sold it. After that, it doesn't matter what he's speaking. It's blah, blah, blah. So, we are so easy and quick to accept such things. Any fool says you are great and, I am great. So, it's much safer if people criticize you. It's safer. At least it's not dangerous. So, that's why with divine arranges it like that. Those who are on the way of sadhana will always have some people who will criticize them. It's a blessing and a boon. At this stage, the necessary knowledge and experience are usually lacking, which would tell him that this is only a very uncertain and mixed beginning. He may fail to realize that if he rushes to apply what he is realizing or receiving as if it were something definitive, like healing powers or any other power, he may either fall into confusion and error or else get shut up in some partial formation in which there may be an element of spiritual truth, but it is likely to be outweighed by more dubious mental and vital accretions that deform it altogether. So there may be a healing power, one rushes, applies it, there is healing phenomena, one believes, yes, it is right. Afterwards, when it doesn't work in all, you say, it is your resistance. Because, you have found now a convenient excuse. It doesn't work in all. But you should have been careful in the beginning itself. So, here it comes. It is only when he is able to draw back, whether at once or after a time, even later on, from his experiences, stand above them with the dispassionate witness consciousness, observe their real nature, just as we observe this world and understand it. Limitations, yes, it heals, but not always. For example, composition, mixture, that he can proceed on his way towards a real freedom and a higher, larger and truer siddhi. So when we catch these things on a vital plane, they will mislead us. At each step this has to be done. For whatever comes in this way to the sadhak of this yoga, whether it be from overmind or intuition or illumined mind or some exalted life plane or from all these together, it is not definitive and final. It is not the supreme truth in which he can rest, but only a stage. And yet these stages have to be passed through. For the supramental or the supreme truth cannot be reached in one bound or even in many bounds. So they will come, a part of the process. One should not get attached or stuck there. This is the important thing. This is in fact an intermediary state, a zone of transition between the ordinary consciousness and the true yoga knowledge. One may cross without hurt through it, perceiving at once or at an early stage its real nature, and refusing to be detained by its half lights and tempting, but imperfect and often mixed and misleading experiences. One may go astray in it, follow false voices and mendacious guidance, and that ends in a spiritual disaster. Or one may take up one's abode in this intermediate zone, care to go no further, and build there some half truth which one takes for the whole truth, or become the instrument of the powers of these transitional planes. It's a long letter, so I'm only reading passages. There are worse dangers in this intermediate zone of experience. We read that, intermediate zone. For the planes to which the sadhak has now opened his consciousness, not as before getting glimpses of them and some influences, but directly receiving their full impact. So first one, glimpses, gets little bit. If one is carried into it, then it's no more influence, impact, but even actual taking hold or possession of the sadhak by some force which can present itself as nothing less than the divine or some overmind, Godhead, etc., etc. Send a host of ideas, impulses, suggestions, formations of all kinds, often the most opposite to each other, inconsistent or incompatible, but presented in such a way as to slur over their insufficiencies and differences. Look at the beauty of a most commonplace word Sri Aurobindo uses. It's a master stroke. Like he has used the word loiter in Savitri, in nature's instruments, loiter secret God. Now he is using the word slur. Slur over their insufficiencies. Just as if something just glosses over, passes over. And a wealth of argument or a convincing sense of certitude. You can't convince these delusional people. Just avoid them. Leave them to their fate between them and the divine. Even if the person knows you very well, is your close friend, if one has caught into this delusion, only the divine can really rescue. Or there is the opposite danger that he may become the instrument of some apparently brilliant but ignorant formation. For these intermediate planes are full of little gods or strong daityas. We'll see this in worlds of greater life, kingdoms and goddess of greater life in Savitri. Daityas, powers of division. So not only gods, but powerful daityas. Or smaller beings who want to create, to materialize something, or to enforce a mental and vital formation in the earth life. They are looking for mortals, not because we are mortals, but because we carry the psychic presence. So they are looking for expression in the material world. And they know how to twist our tail. And they know how to catch our head and swell it. This is quite apart from the well-known danger of actually hostile beings whose sole purpose is to create confusion, falsehood, corruption of the sadhana, and disastrous unspiritual error. Anyone allowing himself to be taken hold of by one of these beings who often take a divine name will lose his way in the yoga. It's not to frighten us, it's to caution us, because he loves us. It's a letter of love, like a divine parent. My child, don't be mistaken. It's something nowadays, like it, when we were, like, what used to come, made in USA or something like that. And then you see that, it is written, if you see closely, it is written, it's a foreign product you have bought. So below, now of course there is a different thing goes on. I'll tell you that other deception. So now it is, you see closely, it is written made in USA. There is a comma and then there is an address, Ludhiana, India. Why? Because USA stands for some company U will be for something United, S is for, some company, Software Associates, or Santaram Associates, United Santaram Associate, USA, and then comma, Ludhiana, small words. And now there is another way. So you go to US and you pick up a dress, this is fantastic. And you buy it. After you have paid it, you discover made in Ludhiana. It just happens. You feel, oh my God, I paid so much. I could have got it in India for much cheaper. So, somebody, when people caution us, it helps. So he's cautioning us that be careful. Don't go by labels. Read the footnotes. Be careful. People will come and say, oh, give this money and I'll multiply it 10 times and give you. It's latching on to the greed. Be careful. So the same way it applies here. One loses the way on yoga. On the other hand, it is quite possible that the sadhak may be met at his entrance into this zone by a power of the divine, which helps and leads him till he is ready for greater things. And what better power than to trust the Divine Mother right from the beginning, to keep referring everything to her. So then one goes safely. For nothing is easier than for the powers of these zones or hostile powers to imitate the guiding voice or image and deceive and mislead the sadhak, or for himself to attribute the creations and formations of his own mind, vital or ego, to the divine, for the divine. We know the famous letters to Tirupati. And mind you, he was no ordinary sadhak. He was going to embody one of the four truths. Mother speaks of these four pillars of immortality: faith, peace, aspiration, and surrender, or devotion. Peace, not peace, devotion. So he was to incarnate faith, but lost his way. Sri Aurobindo sent him away from here, because staying here means dangerous. But he made sure, both physically and obviously in a spiritual way, that he will not suffer materially or otherwise. So there were people looking after him, and time to time he would get this voice from inside of Sri Aurobindo telling him to come to Pondicherry. And he would send a telegram that I am coming. I have heard your voice. And Sri Aurobindo will write, no, I have not called you. And he would send another telegram, but I have heard you. You are inwardly guiding me, but trying to mislead me outwardly. I know you are testing my faith, whether I can trust in the inner guidance. What a logic. Then Sri Aurobindo has to write to his relatives, please don't let him come. He will become worse, because there is so much pressure of forces here that he won't be able to contain it. 15 years it happened like that. There are so many letters you will find written to Tirupati. It's not that, we should not think that it goes to perdition. No. That question Sri Aurobindo has answered in his Krishna avatar form, and also later on. When Arjuna said it's a very difficult yoga, impossible, all this you are saying, control the mind, conquer desires, get rid of ego. What happens to those who can't practice all this? They will fall, be miserable. Then Sri Krishna says, remember, my devotee never perishes or goes to perdition. I never abandon him. Name pranashyati. This is the great promise. But the journey is fraught with dangers. At what stage we may be stuck? And what Sri Aurobindo used to do, take away all these powers from the person. Then person would write complaint to Sri Aurobindo. You have taken away all my yoga shaktis. It has happened. Letters to Sri Aurobindo. You have taken away all my powers. What divinity are you? You are supposed to give me these things. I was experiencing such great powers. And the moment I wrote to you, you have taken away. You are not doing a right thing. Imagine. So, he had to bear all this. It's this compassion of the divine, really, that he bore with all this and continues to bear. And then, towards the end, a central sincerity. Integral sincerity is very difficult, but at least the central sincerity that this is my goal. I have not come here for powers, for being recognized as a great man, to have name, fame, etc., etc., but for the divine. This is the central sincerity. Integral sincerity is only by the divine grace possible. If fundamental humility, however high one's achievement may be, I am her little baby. Look at Nalini Da, Amrit Da. When mother says, Nalini, please explain. Nalini Da says, I don't know. Mother says, I don't know. Ask Nalini. Nalini says, if mother says, I don't know, I must say I am completely ignorant. Amrit Da, how far is the divine from man? He has entered a little late, cannot follow the discussion. Amrit, how far is divine? How far is divine from man? Amrit Da walks right up to mother, measuring each step and says, Mother, 15 steps. When mother throws a trophy, he makes a clumsy attempt to catch it and the toffee falls. Amrit, you can't even catch a toffee. Mother, I can catch a toffee. That's easy. But you are not giving me only toffee. You are giving something else. I want to catch that. What sadhaks, what inspiration for us. That's why we should read their stories. How they have walked the path. It's a Bhagavat. Then we'll understand and how the mother has dealt. Some of those who were great yogis, Dyuman Bhai, whom the mother said he was, Sri Aurobindo has said, he was a rishi in the Vedic times. His name was also kept like that, Chuni Bhai, but his name was Dyuman, the luminous one. Mother says, when you clean Sri Aurobindo's room, don't look at Sri Aurobindo's face. 5 years, and he did not dare to look up. That is called yoga. He had Iksha Mrityu, death within his control. And yet before mother, like a little baby, this is humility. Before the divine, not before human beings. Yes, I am nothing. That can also be a show. But to know inside that one is nothing before the divine. Mother for everything. Going to the Lord. Lord, this has happened. Lord, that has happened. She has shown us the way. So a fundamental humility. Also safe from much danger and trouble. One can then pass quickly beyond into a clearer light, which we read, where if there is still much mixture, incertitude and struggle, yet the orientation is towards the cosmic truth and not to a half-illumined prolongation of Maya and ignorance. Maya is not just this material world. This is nothing. The real Maya starts when we get beyond the clutches of this material world. That is not easy because it is the Maya of the Lord. That's why it is said only by the Mayapati you can be safe to remember the divine. You cannot slay Maya, you can slay Moha. It's the Maya of the Lord. All these many worlds, cosmic gradations, they are emergence from the divine of lesser, greater truths, hierarchy. Who can save us from that? Only trust in the divine. And the last sentence, each man who enters the realms of yogic experience is free to follow his own way. Freedom. But this yoga is not a path for anyone to follow. Eagerness to pull disciples. No. But only for those who accept to seek the aim. Pursue the way pointed out upon which a sure guidance is indispensable. It is idle for anyone to expect that he can follow this road far, much less go to the end by his own inner strength and knowledge, without the true aid or influence. Now there is another catch. Oh, Sri Aurobindo has left, but he has given this catch. Guru is inside you, psychic being. It will, it's true. Find the psychic being, then talk about it. Now you don't need Mother and Sri Aurobindo. That is all past. I see these things. That's why I am saying. Mails and this and that circulating all around. So Sri Aurobindo used the word the true influence. It is idle for anyone to expect this. Even the ordinary, long practiced yogas are hard to follow without the aid of the Guru in this which, as it advances, goes through untrodden countries. The old yogas have not even trod this path. They were satisfied with partial glimpses of the one. That's why you have, impersonal or personal or all kinds of debates, sects, cults. But they are partial glimpses of the one through the layer of the mind. But here we are going into untrodden countries. Entangled regions, it is quite impossible. So this is the safety, that it is idle for anyone to expect that he can follow this road far, much less go to the end by his own inner strength and knowledge without the true aid or influence. So we close with this line from Savitri: only were safe who kept God in their hearts. So we'll continue tomorrow.